Welcome back, everyone, to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be diving into the master data management synchronization within Business Central. Some of the business values based upon what Microsoft has documented is it allows organizations or companies to move data or company setup from one company to another. In this case, what we're going to do a demo of is that we can synchronize master data between two companies. I will put a link to the Microsoft documentation that kind of talks about the capabilities. I'm going to list them out here anyway. So one of the capabilities is added to the managing master data is that it allows you to move master data from one company to another. You can also define the tables and fields to synchronize, so you're a little bit more control in that. So maybe you don't want to, move every single field, just certain fields that you want to maintain as the master record, particularly setup tables, or maybe, for example, certain fields that you want to be consistent. It also allows you to do any changes from the master company and then synchronize to the child company or other corresponding company. For example, if there are major changes, you may want to do a bidirectional, for example, or maybe you don't want to validate that. You just have to do the initial synchronization. The other company can change other fields, but maintaining certain fields to be consistent across other entities. So we're going to go ahead and set that up and get started to it. And again, we're going to do this from scratch in an environment that I don't have any of that set up. So we're going to be learning on this together. We'll be also troubleshooting and how to troubleshoot some of the synchronization problems where it's not doing that. And of course, some of the options is available to you. So let's get to it.
Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
All right, now I'm in my Business Central here. I am in my production, quote unquote, environment. I don't really have a production environment, but it is a production environment in my demo environment here. And you'll notice that I also have another company here called 2 Centavos YouTube, and the data is the same. So basically, I copied Kronos USA and then created another company with 2 Centavos just to illustrate the records that I would create from one company. It's going to synchronize to the 2 Centavos YouTube company. So for the sake of this demo, Kronos is my master company that will manage all the primary master records or tables, and then synchronize over to the 2 Centavos YouTube. And I'll show you that none of those exist. So for example, in this demo, we are going to be doing this on a customer table. We want to synchronize the customer table. So you'll notice I have these 5 customers here. And if I was to jump into the 2 Centavos, I think what I'm going to do is perhaps instead of jumping back and forth, I'm going to have 2 separate tabs here that will allow us to have 2 environments side by side without jumping back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my 2 Centavos YouTube company, and just to share that they're all the same. Okay, you'll see it's the same 5 customers here as well. So what we're going to do is back to my Kronos environment. You'll see that there's none either. So to set this up, you have to set this up from the receiving company, not from the master company, because when you set this up, it's going to ask you what is the source. Okay, so to do that, you have to be from the receiving company. So if I head back to my 2 Centavos YouTube company, what I need to do is navigate to the master data management setup. So I'm going to search for master data. It's going to take me to the setup menu. And then from here, I would have to determine what is the source company. And again, if you did this from the source company, you won't be able to choose. So you have to do this from the receiving company. So here it is. That's my Kronos. We identified on this demo, Kronos is my primary master company, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, I can go ahead and just enable it, but it's not really going to do anything here until I set up the synchronization tables. Now, before I enable that, you'll see here when I click on the synchronization tables, I have nothing set up. Now, you can set up defaults for this one if you choose. Use default synchronization setup. But in this case, that's a little dangerous because you may synchronize everything else where it's not necessary. So maybe if you're a consultant or you are an organization, you're in IT, you need to synchronize data from one company to another. Typically, you don't want to set the default synchronization setup. Otherwise, you'll overwrite everything else on the receiving company and this receiving company. So in this case, I'm just going to specify the synchronized table that I need to synchronize from one company to another. So I click on synchronization table. By default, it's going to set as enabled. I'm just going to disable this for now. So I don't want it to kick off and then click the table that I want. So in this case, I'm going to choose the customer. Now, as we all know, when you're synchronizing one table or when you are looking at a table in Business Central, there are related tables that is necessary to synchronize. Now, do you have to choose all of them? No, right? You may want to just specify, but where there's no related tables, you don't need to enable that. In this case, I want to make sure that all my related tables are also synchronized as well, because otherwise it won't be consistent. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose customer here. It's going to prompt me that there are related tables that I need to consider. Now I can hit no, I don't want it synchronized, or I can say yes. Now keep in mind, this could become a problem when you are synchronizing, because you have to synchronize all those tables first before you do the customer. So it can take some time. In this example, again, it's a case-by-case scenario. In this example, I am not going to I'm going to include these related tables, but I'm going to bring them in as disabled for now. So I'm going to hit yes. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to populate my synchronization tables, and I want to make sure that they're all disabled because I just want to enable the customer table and just bring in a customer number and maybe the name, right? So there it is. It's going to synchronize. So let's make this a little bit larger here. And there's my customer. And you see the related table, the contact, look, I think the location codes on here too, language, payment terms. So all those things are required for a customer. But for the sake of this demo, I just want the customer table. So now before I enable it, I have to choose the field, because if I just leave this alone, it's going to error out on me and it's going to tell me, hey, you don't have any field mapped. Okay, so before I enable it, I have to go to my fields of which fields that I want to synchronize. So I'm going to go ahead and click fields here. It's going to give me a menu, and here's the error. So even if I just turn this on and enabled it, ran the job queue, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and it's going to give you an error that's not mapped. It's because of this, right? These are disabled at the very beginning. So you'd have to come back here anyway and enable the fields that you want. So in this case, I just want to synchronize two fields from my master customer table. So I just want to make sure that the customer number is pulled over, and then of course the name, right? You can also set validate fields. So if there's some issues with master field or field records, you may want to validate. There's also another option here to overwrite local change. Local change means like if for some reason this customer already exists, someone made a change, but your master record is the master main record, it can overwrite that one as well. So again, it maintains that consistency across the board. In addition to that, you'll notice that there's actually more columns here as an option. It's not enabled. So what I'm going to do is hit personalize. And when I hit personalize, I'm going to click more fields. And so there's constant value option. I'm going to drag that over. Direction's important, right? So in case, for example, which direction you want the data to flow, sometimes you may want to also update the master record. And again, this is all based from last modified date too. And then there's also transformation direction. And I'm also going to pull in the transformation rule. I'm going to leave the other one because I don't really need that right now. I will talk about these things that are important to get you started. So I'm going to hit done. So I've enabled the two fields here. You'll notice that it's going to give me the direction. It's going to be from the table, master table over, but there are options here. It says to integration table and bidirectional as well. So there are options in there as well. You can also do transformation. Transformation direction means like if you want to change some of that fields, for example, name, or perfect example, date is another common thing. You may want to have a consistent date format. You can set that up right now so it stays consistent, especially when you're migrating one data to another, especially if you're overriding local change, right? So that's important in here as well. You can also trim records, things like that. So there are a lot more options here. But I'm going to leave this alone. You can also add additional transformations. It's a pretty cool tool. I won't get into that, but there are things that you can use. So lots of option. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as is. I want the record coming from the source company to this receiving company, the 2 centavos YouTube. But again, you can set this up as bidirectional if you want to, or maybe from this receiving company, move it over to the master record. So for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to keep it as is. You can also set constant values. So for example, you may want to have a very specific record every single time. For example, the location code may be different for that company versus the master company. So you can, when it's sending the data over to the receiving company, you may want to set a specific constant value every single time because it pertains to that company, but may not be for the master. But you want that populated, right? You don't want that someone have to worry about that to the receiving company. So this is enabled. I'm going to go back out now, and you'll see it's still disabled. I can go ahead and set this enabled. Okay. And let me go ahead and refresh this here. Of course, it synchronized here. Okay. All right, so now it's synchronized here. It's set. Synchronization changes has been applied. It's my time right now, so March 5th, 11:34 a.m. And I had to go back here. Now, when you do set this up, keep in mind for every table that it's set up, it will create these job queue entries. You'll notice I only enabled, because I brought this related tables, it created all these job queue entries. So keep that in mind. But since I only enabled the customer, you'll notice that the job queue that it auto created for me only enabled the customer table. Okay. So you'll see, and also set is to run 23 minutes in between runs. So you can change that. So depending on how often you want the synchronization to happen, some people want to do it every minute. Some people do it every hour. It really depends on your business requirement. Okay. And keep in mind too, like if you're writing quite a bit of data to the receiving company, it could cause issues in terms of like overriding things. So keep that in mind. So you have to set policies around that, and that's case by case. It could be end of day. I've had organizations that they'll do at the end of the day, synchronize all the changes on the master record to the receiving company. So we could take a look at this one, to take a look at the log entries. Looks like there was an error originally, and I can tell you where that error was. As I noted earlier, the first error it's going to give you is because you have no field mapped yet. And so when we went to the fields, when we chose the fields, of course, it gave us the it allowed you to choose which fields you want to synchronize. When I enabled those, you'll notice that the second time it ran perfectly fine. So you'll see there are no field mapping because we didn't have, when I turned it on, it didn't have that initially, but now it does. Right, so that's why it gave me a success. Now we can take a look at the when we enable this, because that's the initial. What we're going to do is we're going to enable the data synchronization. Okay, it's going to tell you there are existing synchronization tables in this company. Do you want to reset them to the default? I'm going to say no, because I've already set them up already. Just to make sure nothing changed, I can go back. Yes, I only have the customer synchronized. I can also do a full synchronization too. So if it's the first time you set this up, and before I do that, you'll see from the parent company, I don't have one. I'm going to create a record here just so we can see it come pull through from the Kronos company. So I'm going to go ahead and create one. And I'm going to name this as Dynamics Corner Podcast. If you're not aware, I have a Dynamics Corner podcast as well. We have amazing guests on there. So I'm going to give this an address, Washington, which I don't know why, because I didn't choose these fields to synchronize, but hey, I'm going to populate it anyway. So I should expect that the customer number should flow through to the receiving customer from the parent, and we should see that synchronized. If I go back out now, I have this company, Dynamics Corner Podcast. It has a customer number. And I'm going to head back to the Two Centavos YouTube. You'll see I don't have that company here. So the goal is to synchronize that record over here. So to confirm, I can go ahead and do an initial synchronization. And hopefully that will pick it up. Okay, just to check here, I have that customer enabled. I only have those two fields enabled as well as one direction. And if I head back to the start initial synchronization. Now, if you had enabled all those tables, it's going to give you all the list here of all those tables. And again, it does a pretty smart, it does a pretty good job of like synchronizing related tables first, and then creating a customer table. So because there's a related table, so it does a really good job kind of navigating through that. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a start all, or you can do a full synchronization. And you'll see that it's going to get set as status here. And once the job is done, it's going to give me a status of complete or finished versus error. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at my job queue, make sure I'm not getting any additional errors. Okay, and here it is. Now, it's run every 23 minutes. Looks like it already synchronized at 2 minutes ago, but I think I just created that company. So I highly doubt that it's carried anything over yet. So let me go back here and let me refresh. There it is. It pulled over. Look at that. So it pulled over. I can also look at the job, going back to the master data management setup. And if I look at the start synchronization, you'll see it gave me an error too. I can take a look at that error here, and one failed. Right? You must specify which fields in the table customer should be used for match-based coupling. We won't get into that one, but basically what it is that you can set match-based coupling. Let me see if I can get to that option. Okay, here's the match-based coupling right here. So it's under the synchronization table, match on this field, right? So if you want to set this up, in addition to that, synchronize after coupling. This is actually the same kind of process if you synchronize Business Central to maybe customers D365 for sales. Same thing. There's some coupling there that you can set up. You can also set as create new if unable to find a match. So if you want to make sure that it's matching to the customer number and name, case sensitive, Dynamics Corner Podcast. If it's case sensitive matching, maybe one's capitalized and then they're not matching. So you can also set that. Give me an error. In this case, if I check the match on this field with the customer number, that is enough for you to synchronize record across the board. So at least from my experience, it's synchronized. So here's that right there. It created a customer for me. Now, if I drill into this one, you'll notice that I only have the customer number and the name. So if I want to synchronize the address, what I would have to do is go back to my master data management. I actually picked it up. But so master data management, go back to my synchronization table. I can go look at my fields, and then maybe I want to enable bring in the address, city, and zip code. Okay, so those are now enabled. You see, I'm going to pull those in, synchronize. I'm going to head back out here. Just for the sake of it, we're going to create a new record as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, going back to the master record, a master company. And I want to go ahead and add 2 centavos media. And I'm going to give it an address. 123 Drive, Redmond, Washington, 9804008. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and now we should have 2 companies that we should be synchronized. Let's take a look to see if this is going to synchronize here. I'm going to see if I can kick this off, and with the magic of editing. All right, so it looks like it's synchronized here. So you brought in, again, it took like about a minute or so before it kicked in. So it synchronized the other company from the parent, Kronos, down to the 2 centavos YouTube. And take a look at the address itself. Because we've enabled it, you'll see that it got pulled over as well. 123 Drive, Redmond, 98008. And so, yeah, and you can set this up across all different tables from one company to another. I am curious how you would use this. There are different use cases for this. Again, I have seen it where someone is managing a project where they're using this, as they may have a company set up already, ready for the go live. Maybe they solidified the setups and maybe master records, and they just need a test company to kind of play around with it. That's one option. Another option is a new entity where they're managing items that are consistent in maybe items that they want to purchase from the parent company. So maybe some intercompany things there, that the item numbers are consistent across the board. So there are different ways of using this. So this is incredible product, incredible tool, features within the product of Business Central. And again, it's very, very simple. Again, managing the master data management setup here, and just making sure that you have the proper tables that you want to synchronize, and then choosing the fields that you want to synchronize. So I've had some of those enabled here. If you look at the synchronization log, it'll give you some record. It inserted that new record, which is the 2 centavos media customer, into this receiving company. So I hope you find that super helpful. The reason why I created this kind of walkthrough is because I realized that not a lot of people actually were aware of this, and especially when you're setting up new companies and entities and so forth. GL accounts, for example, maybe it's the same across the board. So rather than you having to do config packages and so forth like that, you can use this master data management to go ahead and synchronize over to the other corresponding receiving company. Again, you can play a little bit more around this. For example, overriding, bidirectional. So it really depends on the use case. So I appreciate you tuning into this video. If you find this helpful, a good like and subscribing to it would allow me to identify that people are watching it, and I want to put more content. So I'm excited. So I think Business Central continues to wow me with new features. And again, this master data management it's been out since 2023, early 2023. So I am excited about what my, Business Central can do for you. So if you have any questions, comment down below as well. If you have any questions, I'll do my very best to respond to those comments. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration, and if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.